What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton has detected failures in the Ferrari SF25 that even Maranello's engineers could see? Falls that could explain why Ferrari is so far from McLaren and Red Bull in 2025? What exactly was what he found? Stay, because what you are about to listen could change how you see this season. The breakdown occurred in the Spain Grand Prix. A crucial appointment in the calendar, not for the race itself, but because the layout of Barcelona has always been a perfect thermometer to evaluate the global efficiency of a car. During the race, Hamilton threw a bomb by radio. "I think there is something wrong with this car, companion. It's the worst that has ever been." He said it without fuss, without drama, but with the forcefulness of who knows exactly what he is feeling. That phrase, recorded live and almost ignored at the time, would become the catalyst of one of the most delicate episodes Ferrari has lived in recent years. Upon his return to boxes, a deep review technical procedure began. Hamilton sat with his career engineer, Riccardo Adami, and with key members of the Department of Aerodynamics and Vehicle Dynamics. What began as a routine review became a true forensic research of the car. Hamilton's suspicions were not just valid, they were alarmingly precise. What they discovered was not an adjustment error or a bad configuration choice. They were structural failures that had gone unnoticed for the entire team for months. The most worrying part was not the finding itself, but what it implied. If Hamilton had not raised his voice, Ferrari would probably have continued competing with a fundamentally defective car without even knowing it. And even more serious, these defects were not individual from car 44. They also affected the car of Charles Leclerc, which suggested that the entire design of the SF25 had hidden vices that anyone, neither in Maranello nor on the track, had been able to identify. What followed was an uncomfortable silence. Ferrari, aware of the seriousness of the situation, chose to handle the crisis internally. They asked their pilots to remain silent. No interview should mention what happened. No statement had to glimpse that there was a basic problem. But it was too late. In the paddock, the rumors began to run. In the specialized press, inconsistencies were detected in yields. His ability to read the car, to anticipate anomalous behaviors, to detect deficiencies that neither sensors nor simulations could reflect, made it a human tool that transcended any simulation software. And at that time, Ferrari understood something that would change his destiny in 2025. They did not sign a champion to win races. They signed a performance surgeon to save a sick car. In the heart of the SF25 there was a problem that did not appear in the wind tunnel reports, which was not revealed in the simulation graphs, nor jumped to the naked eye on the data sheets. It was a design defect that could only be revealed through the pure experience of piloting to the limit. And it was Lewis Hamilton who felt it first. The error was not in a spoiler configuration or on a poorly calibrated motor map. The defect was structural. A hidden failure in the concept of the pull rod rear suspension, a technical choice that sought to reduce suspended mass and improve the aerodynamic interaction of the car with the flat bottom. On paper, it was a logical decision. But on the track, the rigidity of the system was not up to the demands of the new soil effect regulations. What Hamilton detected was excessive flexion under side load. In simpler words, when the car took high-speed curves, especially with the tank full or with softer tires, the bottom of the car began to behave erratically. I could not maintain a constant distance to the asphalt. And in a modern car, that height is absolutely critical to generate aerodynamic load. Each millimeter outside its optimal zone represents a loss of time, grip, and efficiency. But the failure was not exclusive to the suspension. The braking system was also generating chaos inside the cockpit. He reported inconstant sensations back after. Some braking points were perfect. In a sport where each curve is a millimeter dance between deceleration and traction, the lack of trust in brakes is a critical problem. This phenomenon was not a product of the pilot adaptation. Hamilton was not failing to understand the system. It was the system that failed to provide consistency. Some within the team tried to justify it as an individual sensitivity issue, but it was enough to review the Leclerc car data to understand that the problem was shared. The engineers discovered non-linear pressure variations in the delivery of force, a clear sign that something in the pump and calibration set of tweezers was not working properly. And this, although it seemed less, had serious consequences. Not only did it affect the time per return, but also the tire wear, the brake temperature, and the general equilibrium of the car in curve input phase. Together, what Hamilton had found was a pattern of symptoms connected by a common cause, a suboptimal platform. A chassis that did not support the dynamic load well, a suspension system that generated more problems than solutions, and a brake system that undermined the confidence of the pilot return. All this happened in front of the eyes of the world without anyone, or in the transmissions, or in the post-career analysis. He could understand why the Ferrari seemed strong in classification but fell dramatically in a rhythm of the race. What Hamilton achieved was not a simple punctual observation. It was a complete technical audit from the pilot's seat. And the most alarming of all is that if Ferrari had not heard his warning, these problems would have continued undercover under the veil of the lack of adaptation, the most common and dangerous excuse in modern motoring. What happened after Hamilton's discovery marked a silent turning point within Ferrari. It was not a public announcement. There were no press conferences or grandiloquent statements. But internally, the team was forced to accept an awkward truth. They had designed a fast car in theory, but with serious mistakes in their practical execution. The SF25 was a car unable to sustain consistent performance throughout a complete race. And that problem had already cost valuable points in the championship, in addition to technical reputation against its direct rivals. The reaction within the team was immediate, although contained. Several technical protocols were activated that are not normally displayed in full season. A special working group was formed between the Department of Vehicle Dynamics and those responsible for the chassis, with a clear directive: redesign key monoplaza areas without compromising legality or affecting manufacturing times. It was surgery in full flight. And, as usual in Ferrari, it was done in complete secrecy, without allowing information leaks abroad. But these types of problems not only affect the technical area. They have a deep psychological impact. Internally, a palpable tension between engineers, mechanics, and strategists was generated. Some began to question decision-making during winter development. Others blamed the pressure of Hamilton's arrival, which demanded more than the team was accustomed to delivering. Even within the Leclerc surroundings, doubts began to circulate about whether the car had been conceived under a technical philosophy that favored the British, forgetting the Monégasque pilot style. And while all this happened in Maranello, the rest of the grille did not stop. McLaren continued to develop an already winning car in 2024, and Red Bull sought to adapt after the abrupt replacement of his second pilot. Mercedes, in a more discreet but effective line, consolidated a balanced package with George Russell and the promising Antonelli. Ferrari, on the other hand, could not advance. It was tied to solve an internal design problem while trying to compete at the highest level, a contradiction impossible to sustain in the long term. Ferrari's immediate future became uncertain. On the one hand, they knew that with Hamilton behind the wheel they had a competitive advantage in terms of technical reading and adaptation capacity. But they also knew that time played against him. Each race without definitive solution meant a new lost opportunity. In a season where McLaren already took the lead in builders, and where Verstappen had begun to find rhythm with RB21, the margin of error was practically null. The situation forced Ferrari to make difficult decisions. Some pieces of the aerodynamic package planned for the Monaco GP were advanced. External suppliers were activated to redesign structural components that would normally take weeks. It was even considered the possibility of introducing a Specification B of the SF25 in the second half of the calendar, something that was not initially contemplated and that would imply a considerable investment of financial resources and wind tunnel hours. However, not everything was negative. What had begun as a technical debacle also transformed into an opportunity. Ferrari had signed Hamilton not only for his talent, but for his ability to transform teams. And now, facing an internal crisis, that attribute became more valuable than ever. At each technical meeting, in each feedback session, Hamilton led not from the ego, but from experience. He did not impose his criteria, he supported him with data, sensations, and comparative that only a pilot of his caliber could offer. The future of the 2025 season for Ferrari will depend not only on its ability to correct these errors, but on its ability to transform this adversity into an advantage. If they manage to rebuild the car quickly, if they manage to align their technical areas, and if they take advantage of Hamilton's silent leadership, they could not only save the year, but to rewrite their narrative. What Lewis Hamilton has achieved in Ferrari during these first races goes far beyond the adaptation of a pilot to a new team. It has been a technical leadership exercise, extreme intuition, and professional courage. In a team marked by decades of pressure, internal policy, and overflowing expectations, its figure has emerged as a catalyst. Not only has he diagnosed failures that no engineer managed to anticipate, he has also forced an institution as traditional as Ferrari to question his own processes, his validation systems, his alleged certainties. But now, the key question is not what Hamilton can detect. It is if Ferrari will be able to act with the same precision, speed, and commitment that he has demonstrated since he went up to SF25. Can they redesign enough without compromising the calendar? Will Charles Leclerc be able to also adapt to a car that is mutating under the ideas of his new partner? And how will rival teams react to know that Ferrari has found, although late, the heart of his problems? Because while this story begins with a hidden defect, it could end with unexpected redemption. And if that happens, we will be facing one of the most powerful reconstruction stories of recent years in modern Formula One. One where technical knowledge, competitive instinct, and pilot experience made a difference rather than any technological resource. Now I ask you directly, do you think Ferrari can reverse his destiny this season? Is this the turning point they needed? Or are we facing another chapter of broken promises in the recent history of Cavallino Rampante? Leave me your opinion below.